Saturday. I'm almost a whole day old now, and I feel like an experiment. It would be impossible to feel more like an experiment than I do, and so I am becoming to feel convinced that that is exactly what I am, an experiment. Just an experiment, nothing more. Oh, everything looks better today than it did yesterday. In the rush of finishing up, the mountains were left in ragged condition, and some of the plains were so cluttered with rubbish and remnants that the aspects were quite distressing. There are too many stars in some places and not enough stars in others, but that can be remedied presently, no doubt. Oh, and the moon. The moon got loose last night and slid and fell out of the scheme. A great loss, and it breaks my heart. For I do love moons. They are so pretty and romantic. I wish we had 5 or 6. I would never go to bed. I should never get tired of lying on the moss bank and looking up at the moons. Oh, stars are good too. I wish I could catch a few and put them in my hair. I suppose I never can. You would be quite surprised at how far off they are. When they first showed last night, I tried to knock some down with a pole, but it didn't reach. And then I tried clods till I was all tired out. I got a basket and started to a place where the stars were close to the ground and I could gather them tenderly with my hands and not break them. They were farther than I thought, and at last I had to give up. I couldn't get back home. It was too far and it was turning cold. I found some tigers and I nestled up in among them. I was most comfortable, and their breath, it was so sweet because they just live off strawberries. I had never seen a tiger before, but I knew them in a minute because of their stripes. I followed the other experiment around at a distance to see what it might be used for. I was not able to make it out. I think it was a man. I had never seen a man, but it looked like one. And I feel sure that is what it is. I realize I feel more curiosity about it than any of the other reptiles. If it is a reptile, I suppose it is, for it has frowsy hair and blue eyes. It has no hips and tapers like a carrot. When it stands, it spreads itself apart like a derrick. So I think it is a reptile, though it might just be architecture. I was afraid of it at first and started to run every time it turned around. I thought it was going to chase me, but I found it was only trying to get away from me. After that, I was not timid anymore, and I tracked it. At last, it was a good deal worried and climbed a tree. I waited a while and then gave up and went home. Today, it's the same. I've got it up a tree again. Sunday. It is up there yet, resting apparently. Seems to me that the creature is more interested in resting than anything else. It has low tastes, and it is not kind. When I was there yesterday evening in the gloaming, it had crept down and was trying to catch the little speckled fish that play in the pool. I had to clod it to make it go up the tree again and let them alone. One of the clods hit him in the back of his ear, and it used language. Oh, that gave me a thrill, for it was the first time I had ever heard speech, except for my own. I didn't understand the words, but they seemed very expressive. When I found out it could talk, I felt a new interest, for I love to talk. I talk all day, on, and even at night when I sleep, and I find I'm very interesting. If this reptile is a man, it isn't an it, is it? I think it would be a he. Yes, I think so. Nominative he, dative him, possessive his'n. I'll consider it a man and call it he until it turns out to be something else. This will be handier than having uncertainties.
Monday. This new creature with the long hair is a good deal in the way. It is always hanging around and following me about. I don't like this. I'm not used to company. I wish it would stay with the other animals. Cloudy today, wind in the east. Think we shall have rain. Where did I get that word? I remember now. The new creature uses it.
Next week, Sunday. All the week I tagged around after him. I tried to get acquainted. I had to do all the talking because he is very shy, but I don't mind it. He seemed pleased to have me around, and I used the sociable we a good deal. It seemed to flatter him to be included.
Tuesday. Been examining the great waterfall. It is the finest thing on this state, I think. The new creature calls it Niagara Falls. Why? I am not sure. I do not know. Says it looks like Niagara Falls. I get no chance to name anything myself. This new creature names everything that comes along before I can get in a protest. And always the same pretext is offered. It looks like the thing. There is a dodo, for instance. Says the moment one looks at it and sees it at a glance, looks like a dodo. You'll have to keep that name, no doubt. It wearies me to thread about it, and does no good anyway. Dodo. It looks no more like a dodo than I do.
Wednesday. Oh, we are getting along very well indeed now, and getting better acquainted. He doesn't try to avoid me anymore, which is a good sign. It shows he likes me, and he likes to have me around with him. I study to be useful to him, to increase his regard. During the last day or two, I have taken all the work of naming things off his hands. Oh, this has been a great relief to him, for he has no gift in that area. When the dodo came along, he thought it was a wildcat. I saw it in his eyes, but I saved him. I was careful to do it in a way that would not hurt his pride. I just spoke in a way of pleasing surprise, not as if I was dreaming of conveying any sort of information. I said, I do declare, if that isn't the dodo. It was quite evident that he admired me. I thought of it more than once with gratification before I slept.
Wednesday. Built me a shelter against the rain, but could not have it to myself in peace. The new creature intruded, and when I tried to put it out, it shed water out of the holes it looks with, and wiped it away with the back of its paw, and made noise such as some of the other animals make when in distress. I wish it would not talk. It is always talking. I have never heard the human voice before, and any new and strange sounds intruding itself here upon the solemn hush of these dreaming solitudes offends my ears and seems a false note. And this new sound is so close to me. It's right at my shoulder, right at my ear, first on one side and then the other. And I am used only to the sounds that are more or less distant from me.
Thursday, my first sorrow. Yesterday he avoided me and seemed to wish I would not talk to him. I could not believe it. I thought there was some mistake, for I love to be with him and I love to hear him talk. How could it be that he could feel unkind toward me when I had not done anything? When night came, I could not bear the loneliness. I went to the new shelter he built just to ask him what I had done wrong. What have I done? And how can I mend it? How can I get back your kindness again? But he put me out in the rain. And that was my first sorrow.
Friday. The naming goes on recklessly on, in spite of anything I can do. I had a very good name for the estate. It was musical and pretty. Garden of Eden. Privately, I can continue to call it that, but not any longer publicly. The new creature says it's all woods and rocks and scenery, and therefore has no resemblance to a garden. Says it looks like a park, and does not look like anything but a park. Consequently, without consulting me, it has a brand new name, Niagara Falls Park. This is sufficiently high-handed, and it seems to me, and already there's a sign up. Keep off the grass. My life is not as happy as it was. Saturday, the new creature eats too much fruit. We are going to run short, most likely. We again. That is its words, mine too, now. From hearing it so much, good deal of fog this morning. I do not go out in the fog myself. The new creature does. It goes out in all weather and then stumps right in with its muddy feet and talks. He used to be so pleasant and quiet here.
Sunday. It is pleasant again now, and I am happy. Oh, but those were heavy days, and I do not think of them when I can help it. I tried to get him some of those apples, but I cannot learn to throw straight, and I failed. I think the good intention pleased him, though. They are forbidden, and he says I shall come to harm. So, I come to harm through pleasing him. What shall I care for harm?
Sunday, pull through. This day is getting to be more and more trying. It was selected and set apart last November as a day of rest. I've already had 6 of them per week before. This morning found the new creature trying to clod apples out of that forbidden tree. Monday, the new creature says its name is Eve. That's all right. I have no objections. Said it is to be called by it when I want it to come. I said it was superfluous then. The word evidently raised me in its respects. And indeed, it is a large and good word and will bear repetition. It says it is not an it is a she. This is probably doubtful, yet it is all one to me. What she is worth nothing to me if she would but go by herself and not talk.
Monday. This morning I told him my name, hoping it would interest him, but he did not care for it. It's strange. If he had told me his name, I would care. I tried to hide my disappointment, but I did not succeed. I went away and sat on the moss bank with my feet in the water. It's where I go when I hunger for companionship. I need someone to look at, someone to talk to. It is not enough that lovely white body painted there in the pool, but it is something, and something is better than nothing. It talks when I talk. It's sad when I'm sad. It comforts me with its sympathy. It is a good friend to me, my only one. It is my sister.
Tuesday, she has littered the whole estate with names and offensive signs. This way to the whirlpool, this way to Goat's Island, Cave of the Wind this way. She says this park would make a tidy summer resort, if there was any custom for it. Summer resort. Another invention of hers, just words without any meaning. What is a summer resort? But it's best not to ask her. She has such a rage for explaining.
Tuesday, all the morning I was at work improving the estate, and I purposely kept away from him, hoping that he would miss me. But he did not get lonely and come by. I laid a dry stick on the ground and tried to bore a hole in it with another one in order to carry out a scheme I had, and soon I got an awful fright. A thin, transparent, bluish film rose out of the hole. I dropped everything and ran. I thought it was a spirit, and I was so frightened, but I looked back and it was not coming. I crept warily back, watching, wishing the man was about. I went there, and there was a delicate pink dust in the hole. I put my finger in it just to feel it. Ouch! It hurt. It was cruel pain. I was curious to know what the pink dust was. Suddenly, the name occurred to me. It was fire. I was as certain of it as a person could be of anything in the world. So, without hesitation, I named it fire. I had created something that did not exist before. I added a new thing to the world's uncountable properties. I said, "Oh, you fire, I love you, you are beautiful." I was going to gather it to my breast, but I refrained. Then I wrought again, and when I had made a good deal of fire dust, I emptied it into a handful of dry brown grass, intending to take it home. But the wind caught it, and I named the red flares flames. He came running, stopped and gazed, and said not a word for many minutes. Then he asked what it was. I said it was fire. If it annoyed him that I should know, and he must ask, that was not my fault. I had no desire to annoy him. After a pause, he asked, "How did it come?" Another direct question requiring a direct answer. I made it. The fire traveled farther, and he went to the edge of the burned area and said, "What are these?" "Fire coals." He picked one up to examine, but changed his mind and put it down. Then he went away. Nothing interests him.
Friday, she has taken to beseeching me to stop going over the falls. What harm does it do? Says it makes her shudder. I wonder why. I've always done it. Always liked the plunge and the excitement and the coolness. I suppose it was what the falls were for. They have no other use that I can see. They must have been made for something. She said they were only made for scenery, like the rhinoceros and the mastodon. I went over the falls in a barrel. Not satisfactory to her. Went over in a tub. Still not satisfactory. Swam the whirlpool and the rapids in a fig leaf suit. It got much damage. Hence, tedious complaints about my extravagance. I am much too hampered here. What I needed is a change of scene.
Friday, I saw him again for a moment last Monday at the waterfall. I was hoping he would praise me for trying to improve the estate. I had meant well and had worked hard, but he was not pleased. And he turned away and left me. He was always displeased on another count. I tried once more to persuade him to stop going over the falls. That was because the fire had revealed to me a new passion, distinctly different from love and grief and those others which I had already discovered. Fear. It was horrible.
Perhaps I ought to remember that she is very young, a mere girl, and make allowances. She is all interest, eagerness, vivacity, and the world to her is a charm, a wonder, a mystery, a joy. She can't speak for delight when she finds a new flower. She must pet it and caress it, and smell it, and talk to it, and pour out endearing names upon it. If she could just quiet down and keep still for a couple of minutes at a time, it would be a reposeful spectacle. In that case, I think I can enjoy looking at her. Indeed, I am sure I could, for I am coming to realize that she's quite remarkably comely creature, lithe, slender, trim, rounded, shapely, nimble, graceful. And once when she was standing marble white and sun-drenched on a boulder, with her young head tilted back and her hands shading her eyes, watching the flight of the birds in the sky, I recognized that she was beautiful. Saturday, I escaped last Tuesday night and traveled 2 days and built me another shelter in a secluded place and obliterated my tracks as well as I could. But she hunted me out by means of a beast which she had tamed and called a wolf, and came making that pitiful noise again and shedding that water out of the places she looks with. I was obliged to return with her, but I will presently emigrate again when the occasion offers. She engages herself in many foolish things, among others trying to study out why the animals called lion tigers live on grass and flowers, when, as she says, the sort of teeth they wear would indicate that they were intended to eat each other. This is foolish, because to do that would be to kill each other, and that would introduce what, as I understand it, is called death. And death, as I have been told, has not yet entered the park, which is a pity on some accounts.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today, all without seeing him. It is a long time to be alone, but being alone is better than being unwelcome.
Sunday, pulled through. Monday, I believe I see what the week is for. It is to give time to rest up from the weariness of Sunday. It seems a good idea. She's been climbing that tree again, clouded her out of it. She said nobody was looking, seems to consider that a sufficient justification for chancing any dangerous thing. Told her that the word justification moved her admiration and envy too. I thought it was a good word. Monday, noon. If there's anything on the planet that she is not interested in, it is not on my list. There are animals that I am indifferent to, but it is not so with her. She has no discrimination. She talks to all of them, takes to all of them. She thinks they are all treasures, and every new one is welcome. No, nothing ever satisfies her but demonstration. Untested theories are not in her line, and she won't have them. It is the right spirit. I concede it. It attracts me. I feel the influence of it. If I were with her more, I think I would take it up myself. Tuesday, she told me she was made out of the rib taken from my body. This is at least doubtful, if not more than that. I have not missed any rib. She is in much trouble about the buzzards. She says grass does not agree with it, and is afraid she can't raise it, thinks it was intended to live on decayed flesh. The buzzard must get along the best that it can with what it is provided. We cannot overturn the whole scheme to accommodate the buzzard. Saturday, she fell in the pond yesterday when she was looking at herself in it, which is what she's always doing. She nearly strangled and said it was most uncomfortable. This made her sorry for the creatures which live in there, which she calls fish, for she continues to fasten names onto things that don't need them and don't come when they are called by them, which is a matter of no consequence to her, as she is such a numbskull anyway. Sunday, pulled through. Tuesday, she has taken up with the snake now. The other animals are glad for it, for she was always experimenting with them and bothering them. And I am glad, because the snake talks and this enables me to get some rest. Friday, she says the snake advises her to try the fruit of that tree and says the result will be great and fine and a noble education. I told her there would be another result too. It would introduce death into the world. That was a mistake. It had been better to keep the remarks to myself, though. It only gave her an idea. She could save the sick buzzard and furnish fresh meat to the despondent lions and tigers. I advised her to keep away from the tree. She said she wouldn't. I foresee trouble. We'll emigrate.
Friday, I had to have company. I was made for it, I think. So I made friends with all the animals. They are just charming, and they have the kindest disposition in the most polite ways. All these days we have such good times, and it hasn't been lonesome for me ever. We have made long excursions, and I have seen a great deal of the world. So I am the first traveler, the only one. The birds and the animals are all friendly to each other. No disputes over anything. They all talk, and they talk to me. But it must be a foreign language. But I can not make out a word. Yet they often understand me, particularly the dog and the elephant. At first, I couldn't make out what I was made for, but now I think it was to search for out the secrets of this wonderful world and be happy and thank the giver of all for devising it. I think there are many things to learn yet. I hope so. By watching, I know the stars are not going to last. I have seen some of the best ones melt and run down. Since they can melt, they can all melt. Since they can all melt, they can all melt on the same night. That sorrow will come, I think.
Wednesday, I had a variegated time. I escaped last night and rode a horse all night as fast as he could go, hoping to get clear of the park and hide out in some other country before the trouble should begin. But it was not to be. About an hour after sunup, as I was riding through a flowery plain where thousands of animals were grazing, slumbering, or playing with each other according to their wont, all of a sudden they broke into a tempest of frightful noise, and in one moment the plain was a frantic commotion and every beast was destroying its neighbor. I knew what it meant. Eve had eaten that fruit and death had come into the world. The tigers ate my horse, paying no attention when I ordered them to desist, and they would have even eaten me if I'd have stayed, which I didn't, but went away in much haste. I found this place outside the park and was fairly comfortable for a few days, but she found me out and has named the place Tonawanda. Says it looks like that. In fact, I was not sorry she came, for there are but meager pickings here, and she brought some of those apples. I was obliged to eat them. I was so hungry. It was against my principle, but I find that principles have no real force except when one is well fed. She came curtained in boughs and bunches of leaves. When I asked her what they were for and what she meant by such nonsense, she snatched them away and threw them down. She tithered and blushed. I have never seen a person tither and blush before, and to me it seemed unbecoming and idiotic. She said I would soon know how it was myself. This was correct. Hungry as I was, I laid down the apple half eaten, certainly the best one I ever saw considering the lateness of the season, and arrayed myself in the discarded boughs and branches and then spoke to her with some severity and ordered her to go and get some more and not make such a spectacle of herself. She did it, and after this we crept down to where the wild beast battle had been and collected some of the skins and made her patch together a couple of suits proper for public occasions. They were uncomfortable, it is true, but stylish, and that's the main point about clothes. I find she is a good deal of a companion. I see I should be lonesome and depressed without her, now that I've lost my property. Another thing she says, it is ordered that we work for our living hereafter. She will be useful, and I will be superintend.
When I look back, the garden is a dream to me. It was beautiful, surpassingly beautiful, enchantingly beautiful, and now it is lost, and I shall not see it anymore. The garden is lost, but I have found him, and am content. He loves me as well as he can, and I love him with all the strength of my passionate nature, and this, I think, is proper for my youth and sex. It is not an account of his brightness that I love him. Oh, no, it is not. He is not to blame for his brightness, such as it is, for he did not make it himself. He is as God made him, and that is sufficient. It is not on account of his graciousness and considerate ways and his delicacy that I love him. No, he lacks in that regard. But he is well enough just so, and is improving. It is not on account of his education that I love him. No, it's not that. He is self-educated and does really well. He does know a multitude of things, but they are not so. It is not on account of his chivalry that I love him. No, it is not that. He told on me, and I do not blame him. Then why is it that I love him? Merely because he is masculine, I think. Yes, I think I love him merely because he is mine and he is masculine. There is no other reason, I suppose, and so I think it is, as I first said, that this kind of love is not a product of reasonings and statistics. It just comes. No one knows whence and cannot explain itself and doesn't need to. It is what I think, and I'm only a girl, the first that has examined this matter, and it may turn out that in my ignorance and inexperience I've not got it right.
She accuses me of being the cause of our disaster. She says with apparent sincerity and truth that the serpent assured her that the forbidden fruit was not apples, it was chestnuts. I said I was innocent then, for I had not eaten any chestnuts. She said the serpent informed her that chestnuts was a figurative term meaning an aged and moldy joke. She asked me if I had made one just at the time of the catastrophe, and I was obliged to admit that I had made one for myself, though not aloud. It was this. I was thinking about the falls and said to myself, how wonderful it is to see the vast body of water tumble down there. Then, in an instant, a bright thought flashed in my head, and I let it fly, saying, it would be a deal more wonderful to see it tumble up there. And I was just about to kill myself with laughing when it all natural broke loose in war and death, and I had to flee for my life. There, she said with a triumph, that's just it. The serpent mentioned that very jest and called the first chestnut and said it was coeval with the creation. Alas, I am indeed to blame.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight.